You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
All right, Mike. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about with these playoffs. And I know you're fired up, man. I can see it in your face. I can see it. I see it. I see it. And I know what happens. The DNA starts changing as you get into playoffs, and we're in it. So we're going to talk about all that. But I just wanted you to take notice here of my apparel. And this is a genuine official pro circuit a motocross team factory shirt. This was given to me by team owner Mitch Payton.
Wow.
And Mitch is an icon in the supercross motocross world.
Never heard of him. Yeah, never heard of him.
Yeah, but you know what, Mike? He is one hell of a guy. Just a tremendous person, and he built this team, this race team, from the ground up, literally out of his garage. One of those type stories. And now he's got, has had riders in the big races here for probably over close to 30 years now. So, congrats to him, man. You know, they're plugging along here. He's got a couple young riders, and who knows, man, maybe this Joe Shimoda kid coming over from Japan can get it going here. But just want to give him a shout out and say thank you. And you know me, I'll take anything for free now. You know, it's got all this on here.
Does that thing plug in anywhere? Does it have
plug in?
Lights,
it might.
It
might, Mike.
Does it play music?
It might.
Does it
You
play
know what?
music?
I think it does, man. It's got all the factory sponsors on it. You know, that's
yeah, it does.
There's
There's not much that's not on there. That's for sure. I
and
see
you
Santa
know,
Claus on there too.
He made. If he paid, he's on the shirt.
Yeah, right.
And you know me. If it's for free, I'm going to take 3. At least.
It's like coaches. You put free food out there, it's gone. You put
Oh my God!
It's gone. Yeah.
You know, my dad used to do on the plane ride home after games. He would come home and he would have like silverware, you know, from the meal, and he would have a little shaving kit, you know, because airlines used to give you little shaving kits, you know, in first class on. He would come home with all that stuff, and my mom would say, "Why are you bringing all this stuff?" I said, "It's for free," you know. So there you go. An NFL coach will take anything.
So, you know, assistant coaches, you know, they make good money now. I mean, they make a lot of money. I won't tell you who it was. I had 2 coaches on Friday practice. Afterwards, we'd have a fried chicken deal and all that stuff. And of course, there's leftover. We had those coaches who would go down there and they'd bag all the leftover stuff to take it home. I guess I probably would have too, but it just caught me wrong somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, before we move on, one final note on Mitch Payton and Team Pro Circuit. I was telling you a little bit about Mitch. Mitch was paralyzed in a racing accident as a teenager. Okay, years ago, and that didn't stop him. That didn't slow him down. That was part of the inspiration that led to him saying, "Okay, if I can't ride anymore, I'm gonna
build a
help
team,
other guys and make a team." So.
Good
truly an inspiration and truly a feel-good story and a great guy. So just wanted to pass that on. And like I said, all the best to him and everyone else there in the business because I love that stuff. All right, Mike. So let's discuss this. Let's just start with we're in the playoff hunt here. And let's start with playoff wild card weekend, as the NFL calls it. Now that's a new thing, wild card weekend. And the games went from Saturday all the way through to Monday. And Monday's game, the Rams in Arizona. And I got to tell you, first off, congrats to the Rams. They came out smoking. I noticed the coach took the ball out of the quarterback's hands and he put it in the hands of one Cam Akers. And from the very first few plays, you could tell how this game was going to go, and it went.
You know, the team was excited about playing that game. Of course, they were in playoff mode, and new guys into the league that don't know what playoff mode is. If you're in one of those situations, you get baptized real quick because it's different speed, different. It's just different, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't make any mistakes. The only mistake they had a drop pass over on the sideline to that tight end, Higbee or whatever his name is. That was the only mistake I saw them. Defensively, they started the game. Remember, we talked about changing the front. They started the game in a 5-man front.
Yeah, you that's right. You texted me that.
They started in a bear. Started with double eagle. So the guards are covered, center's covered. So that means that you're not going to run the ball. So anyway, a 5-man front, for those who don't know, then on passing downs, it's one-on-one and they're playing man coverage, and they just figure their defensive front's going to beat those guys one-on-one quickly enough before you get the ball. And that's what happened. And then they just played the routes, Ron. They just took what they do and just did not let them do it. They route read. They sat on things. It's a real short passing game. And this is what we've said about Cliff for some time now, that unless you change and be creative, ultimately they will absolutely shut you down. And that's what's happened to him in each of the seasons that he's coached in the second half of the season. People go to school on him and they just shut him down. And then he has no recourse or answer. And I felt bad for the quarterback because, I'm sure he'll take heat on, has nothing to do with him. He had nowhere to go with football. He's holding the ball back there. Right. Yeah. And it happened in a couple of situations. Dallas was exactly the same thing. They came out and they took it away and they had no answer. They couldn't change gears. And, that's why you carry so much, in your game plan. You've got to be able to change up and all of a sudden go to 2 tight ends and play a little power football and play action or whatever. But they just do one thing. They're in the gun. They have a few runs that they do, a lot of short passing games and screens, and that's it. And they just shut it down. They had no answer for him.
Did the coaches blow this one? Seems like they didn't have a.
That's all they know. That's all they know. That they took that plan. They were probably running the same game plan in week 1. It's just there's not much difference to what they do. And in college, it's all based on speed. You got to line up real quick and run all that stuff real fast. And nobody. It's just different in the NFL. These guys go to work and they take that stuff away. And I felt bad for the players because they deserve better than that. I thought it was a horrendous job of coaching by Cliff Kingsbury, and that's hard for me to say, as you know.
I know
how I feel about coaches, but I was angry at it. It just really upset me. You go back to the Philadelphia game too. There's some teams, Ron, I think that are just happy to make it to the playoffs, and that was one of those teams.
Yeah,
they're just happy to get there. Same thing. The game plan was absolutely horrendous. They didn't give that poor quarterback a chance to do anything. At least do something where we can get the ball into the flat or a little quasi pick play or be creative, do something. And they just didn't. And they just shut them down completely.
Mike, were you surprised at how well the Rams ran the ball, especially with Cam Akers and a guy coming off of a torn Achilles, which back in our day, if you had an Achilles, that was almost a death sentence.
Yeah. So Ron, you were in the league when guys would come in, they call them fresh legs, right?
Yeah, fresh salad.
Fresh salad, fresh legs. Yeah. But he had fresh legs, and he comes in. He's playing at a high rate of speed, and he doesn't slow down. Guys, some of those backs when they get inside, they hunt and peck a little bit, and he just hits it, buddy. I mean, he just hits it. He played with a kind of a reckless abandon that the really great backs they got to play. Particularly at playoff time.
And I know what that is because I missed the season and I came back after an injury. And let me tell you, every second, every minute of the day, you think about getting back on that field.
No question,
and you have a rage in you and energy. I remember when I came back after missing the year, because all you can pretty much do is rehab and lift like a crazy man. And I remember I came back and guys were coming up to me and they were saying, "What are you on?" I said,
what roids you on?
They would laugh. They'd say, "Come on, man, you're on something."
That's all you did is work out. Yeah, I went through the same thing.
I wasn't on anything. I was just juiced up, jacked up.
Yeah,
and you could see that energy and that explosion.
It's hard standing on the sideline injured, and then when you do get your opportunity, you're so excited about it. And I think that has a lot to do with the way he was. He was so anxious to play and be part of that team, and they're doing everything right. The guy's really a good McVay. He handles everything right. He handles everything at the same level. He doesn't get unnerved by things. He does a great job with that. And that's why they'll be one of the main reasons why they'll be successful because of his leadership,
Right. And we're going to talk later on here about the matchup now. I think it's going to be pretty good for the Rams because Tampa Bay busted up in the offensive line. But we'll talk about that matchup coming up. But finishing up this Cam Akers thing, the amount of energy you spend, mental energy and stress, and one step forward, three steps back when you're in rehabilitation. People don't know. People think the surgery is the hard part. No, the surgery is the easy part. The rehab is the hard part. And
they made a comment that he'd said something about he'd break down going to rehab because he knew how painful it would be for him.
Mike, I've been there. Yeah.
Neil Alatrash was our surgeon when I was in LA at the Rams, and he's still there, and he still did Tom Brady surgery. He's the guy in LA, to do it. And of course he did a remarkable job on it. But it was a fun game to watch, particularly if you're a Ram fan. I felt so bad, and I don't feel bad for teams normally, but I did feel bad for that Arizona group because I just felt like they were not given an opportunity to prepare. They just weren't given anything to have success with,
It was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing.
And of course, they're missing the big receiver. Obviously he's not there, and but there's just, and the running back, what's his name, number 6? Gosh darn it, sorry about that. For Arizona,
Connor,
he played very well. He gave some life, and they come in and compete. But there are teams when they get to the playoffs, they're just happy to make it. And I think Philadelphia, they just wanted to get in and get that thing over with.
Arizona, Arizona.
I mean, Philadelphia in their game. They
right.
They went home, and Arizona to some extent. The energy, you can just tell in warm-ups, the energy wasn't there. When you watch those guys at the beginning of the snap, they just didn't. When you have a real good plan, you feel good about, and the guys are excited about playing, you just know.
Yeah.
And when the plan's not good, or there wasn't the same kind of energy. And especially when you're on the road in the playoffs, you have to weather the storm that first quarter. And if you don't weather the storm that first quarter, you're going to be playing from deep space for quite some time.
That's a great point. I'm going to write that down and use that on some of my other shows later on. Survive first quarter, survive Q1. You got to first drive in the first quarter.
Because the noise it's electric. The noise, the enthusiasm, the home team, they're jacked up. The fans are going. Yeah. And if you can weather that storm and stay within range and do well, then you got a great chance to win that game.
Well, okay, so let's go to Philadelphia, Tampa Bay. There's a perfect example. I didn't think that Philadelphia looked very much like Arizona. Like, I didn't realize that switch was going to be flipped, and this is different. You could see with Hurts.
Yes.
He was like, whoa, this is different. Kyler Murray, this is different.
But with Hurts, the same thing. They just didn't have it. They didn't give him anything. They just, especially in those games, you got to create opportunities for the quarterback to kind of get in it and have some confidence. But I don't think either team, when you look at it, Ron, either Arizona or Philadelphia, winning that game with a thought that they really had a good chance of winning it.
Yeah.
And Philadelphia, to me, had checked it in when on the kickoff. They can compete. Arizona defensively competed, but offensively, and this is the head coach now, just a really horrendous game plan and game time adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were some throws there that the quarterback missed, but as you say, you could see the game planning was off from the start.
And I don't blame Murray at all. He's running around. He can't get guys free. They're not winning on routes. And as a quarterback, the difference for people who don't know, in zone, you have read progressions. If that guy's not open, you can check it down over here in space and those kinds of. But in man-to-man, there's no such option as checkdowns. In man-to-man, you got to make that throw for the best receiver that you think it will win on the route, and you just don't go through a read progression, man. And so, and it takes time. So if they lock him down, you don't have a place to go. And that's exactly what the Rams did. They just locked him up. They played 5. Yeah. They rushed 5 down on him, and which really sped up the clock for the quarterback. And he just could not get the ball down the field at all.
No. And you're in Los Angeles now. Come on. That was basically a Laker game on a football field. Okay. That the energy wise, you could see this star, the commissioner is there.
Yeah.
He's hanging with our guy, Jackie Slater. Boy, if you don't, like you say, if you don't survive the first few minutes of that game, you're going down in a death spiral, and That's what happened.
And then of course the New England game was an odd game to me. The difference between New England and these other teams, even though they got blown out, was defensively, they just could not hold up to that onslaught of Buffalo. Buffalo, when that quarterback, when Josh Allen was on, I don't know what else you can do, and they're just not good enough defensively to hold up against, the Bills. You knew this was coming because they lost him earlier. There's some comments made, and that head coach got a little riled. They beat him pretty good last time, and you knew that if they could hang one on him this time, they would, and they did. But my point is, New England offensively, I mean, they compete. You just don't stop competing. They still compete, trying to get the ball down the end zone, and there's just no let up regardless of the situation. And, you live to fight another day, so to speak. But the way Buffalo played, if they play like that every week, who's going to beat them kind of thing,
So Buffalo will go to Kansas City again, okay? And here's what I said about Buffalo. The defense, they're number one in like 6 different categories defensively. And the quarterback play is really starting to show now. We knew what he was, and they hit a bump in the road there. They fixed this New England problem by going to New England, beating them, and now putting the exclamation point on it right here.
Yeah.
But now you clearly saw in that game that they're going to get there through Josh Allen and their defense.
And they make no bones about it, Ron. The lack of running game, they say, well, the quarterback shouldn't run. So, he does it all for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, he goes down there in deep trouble, but, they don't make any apologies for the fact that there's no running game existent whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now I always said if Buffalo could have home field advantage, I would have to pick them going in to go to the Super Bowl. Now they're still going to have a heck of a chance here, but they've got to prove that they can go to Kansas City and exercise that demon. Now let's talk about Kansas City. Kansas City screwed around with Pittsburgh for about a quarter, and then once the Steelers went up 7-0, then all of a sudden Kansas City woke up. I don't know that you have that luxury against better teams like they're going to see this week in Buffalo to screw around, sleepwalk, and then flip the switch.
Well, I think Pittsburgh came out and played as good as they can on defense.
They maxed themselves out, yeah.
But offensively, that was another one of those game plans where you're thinking you're just trying to run time off the clock and make it close kind of game plans, and it was offensive for me to watch Pittsburgh and what they did on offense. I didn't understand, even though Ben's got some limitation, but at least make an effort now. They didn't. They just hand the ball off and throw a slant and drop it and punt. That was a routine. They got into that football cha-cha. 2-3 kick.
Football cha-cha. But Mike, that's what you see when you watch Pittsburgh football. And I hate to say this about any professional football team out of respect for the sport, but it's borderline boring. And Ben can't push the ball up the field like he used to, obviously, but he
just missed a bunch of throws down the field too. He was done it really a year ago, but
we know that. Yeah.
It's going to be hard for them. I guess calling plays in a situation like that's got to be difficult because there's not much you can do, and you really can't run the ball very well. So you got to try to weather the storm, win on defense, I guess.
Yeah. Let's go back to this San Francisco-Dallas game. We briefly touched on it. All right. So where do you want to start? Okay. Let's just start at the part that everyone wants to know about, even though Tony Dungy's comment was, I thought, historic when he said, stop talking about the last 15 seconds and start talking about the other mistakes that were made by the Cowboys throughout the game. But Mike, take me from that moment when Dak is racing up the field after the quarterback sneak, and what happened in your eyes?
So they were dominated the entire game. They threw San Francisco. Garoppolo threw a pick. He just overthrew a sideline route, and that keeps them in. They take that down the score. Otherwise, they just get dominated. And in this series, the last series is meaningless. They had no chance of scoring from the 20-yard line anyway.
It was going to be a miracle play.
They act like that was going to be a great play from the 25-yard line or wherever it was, and they were going to throw a touchdown. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And they try to cover the fact that they stunk the entire game. It was a horrendous plan. And The receivers didn't play fast. Same thing that happened in Arizona, Ronnie. They just clamped down the receivers. The receivers couldn't win on a route. And Dak Prescott, I'm a big fan of his. I watched what happened. He had no place to go with the ball. No. If he throws, that's going to be picked, so you just end up eating that ball and holding on to it, and everybody gets mad at him. But from a coach's standpoint, when you look at that, they're not creating anything to get guys free, and it's he had to make some Herculean throws at the end there to make it a game again. But that last thing, that was a moot point. That game wasn't, they weren't going to win that game.
Yeah. Okay. So here are the other points, some of the other points that Tony Dungy was referring to, and he's dead on. Dallas rushes the ball for 77 yards to San Francisco's 169. Same trick San Francisco pulled on the Rams about a week ago. They're a physical team. They're running the football.
11 rushes in the first quarter. Yeah.
11. Right. Penalty wise, my gosh, 14 penalties to 9 for Dallas.
Well, the left guard 52, they have a big play and comes back because he tackles a guy holding, There's no recourse to it. Like we said, substitute teacher, whoever the head coach is, he's a substitute teacher. And, all the kids in school know that no matter what they do, there's no recourse. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And because San Francisco ran the ball so well, of course, the time of possession was a little out of whack. San Francisco, 33 minutes to Dallas's 26. What has happened to Zeke Elliott?
He's injured. He was injured earlier. He was injured early in the year. I could see him, and they just never said anything about it. But he hasn't been the same all year. He's been injured.
No, he hasn't. No,
that knee, he just can't. He can't.
You can see it.
Yeah, you can see Pollard when he goes in. There's a whole different speed, and he just can't make anything happen.
Yeah, Connor Williams, the center, this 49er front four got into him pretty good. I mean, they made life hard. Armstead was there, and they were from top to bottom, start to finish. They dominated another game with their defensive front four. Now the question is moving forward. They lost Nick Bosa, and he's got a head injury, so he's got to be in protocol right now. He's question mark for next week's game, and they lost Fred Warner, the middle linebacker, who's been flying around like a crazy man because of the front four making plays. He's got an ankle. So, this is they're gonna limp into this next game here going up to Green Bay from that standpoint, definitely.
But going back to this game, Ron, that down 4 for the 49ers, once it became clear that they weren't going to run the football, other than a token run here and there.
Yeah.
Then they went into all these games that they ran up in front, which I'd love to see the Rams do, but they ran a triple twist, TTEs and ETs and TEs and all these things. And, Dallas couldn't handle it. Dallas was a slug mug front offensive line. Yeah. But when it comes time to deal and passing that stuff off, that's just not what they do. They struggled, and they're wiggling guys free on Dak all afternoon. And it was just, they did a remarkable job on defense. They hit him in the coverages. They sat on the routes. They knew what they were going to throw. They didn't let them have it. They just shut him down. It's just a great job of coaching, I think.
I thought so too. Yeah. No, they've done a nice job there, and that's D'Amico Ryans. Remember D'Amico, the former middle linebacker with the Houston Texans, who quite honestly hasn't gotten a lot of publicity this year, and not many people have talked about him. But I think now you have to start talking about him because this defense is playing pretty well. So we'll see.
Well, you look at all the
injuries.
The really good teams they've played, they've just been remarkable. They've taken apart, and they started off slow, of course, but it'll be, like you said, going up to Green Bay will be a tough road trip for them.
Yeah.
Even with the guys healthy, I think Green Bay with the week off, and I think they probably are in good shape in terms of their roster. We talked about that. They got some guys back. They have both the backs back, and the offensive line was the only place that they were nicked.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I always screw his name up. Bakhtiari.
Bakhtiari.
Yeah. I almost said Tim Biakabatuka, running back.
I was going to say Biakabatuka. No, he's not here. Where are you?
Yeah. Bakhtiari. He has been out. Remember now, this is the second highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he has been out all year. And he got hurt last year. But and it's everything. They've got him back on the practice routine now, and he's officially available, but they haven't put him in. So I don't know if this week now they're going to put him in along with the Jair Alexander, the big corner, the top corner for the Packers. He's active now, but I don't know what's going to happen.
I think a great team, and I think they're a great team like the Packers. You give them a week of rest to go into the playoffs, and then everything's got to be played in Green Bay. Yeah. Man, I tell you, that's tough duty for anybody to go up there and beat them.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Bengals and Raiders. All anyone wants to talk about is the whistle that was inadvertently blown, but not according to members of the NFL official committee. They say that there was no whistle, even though you can clearly hear a whistle.
Well, if there was a whistle, it was right on the throw, I thought.
It was. Yeah, right.
It was. I mean, come on. It's a touchdown, so find something to whine and complain about. But see, the thing the Raiders did that Arizona and Philadelphia did not do, they went in there with the thought, they're going to win that game. They had a great platform, and
that's right.
Had every opportunity to win it, just couldn't quite get it done. Yeah.
So where did things go? And I thought this was a very well played game. This was a fun game to watch.
It was a good game to watch. Yes.
Yeah. And what I thought the Raiders didn't have in their favor that they had the week prior against the Chargers was they didn't have someone going for it on fourth down on their own 20
to give them the opportunity. To get
they didn't have that dumb stuff going on. So they actually had to every possession go down, make something happen, put things together, string drives together, string things together, and win the game. You had to go take this game. And Joe Burrow, you've been saying now for a long time, boy, if you watch Joe Burrow, his processing is excellent. He knows exactly where to go with the football. His feet are right. And I was looking for all that, and I could see it, in the most pressure situation, a playoff game at home for a team that hasn't won a playoff game in 30 some years.
Yeah, he's a superstar of the future. I mean, he's the future of this league in a lot of respects. He and Herbert, when you look at them, those are two of the quarterbacks here 10 years from now. They'll still be, playing at the highest level and being in Super Bowls, et cetera. But I think that the biggest thing is with Chase, with the receiver, the two of those guys, it makes no difference what the coverage is. They're going to get him the ball. And they'll be, that combination will be the deciding factor whether or not they win or lose. And they try to take him away. He still had a bunch of catches and was, a major factor in why they win.
Yep. Okay. So let's run through the games now coming up. I think we covered everything from last week, who's in, who's out. So let me set this stage for us real quick, Mike, and then we'll take off on it. So the Bengals will take on the Titans. That'll be a Saturday game. San Francisco will finish up Saturday going into Green Bay. So that's a nice little docket there for you on a Saturday. Sunday, the Rams playing late or at 3:00 Eastern time. I should say late. That's actually the early game that day. They'll take on the Buccaneers. And then the Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs will finish up the day on that one at night. So let's go back to the Bengals at Tennessee. Tell me what you like about Tennessee. Tell me what worries you about Tennessee.
Well, as long as they can make you play a long field, then they'll have a great chance to win the game. And by that, I mean long sustained drives. And if you don't get points out of it, leave the ball inside the 20 and make them go the long road, so to speak. And that's real sound, traditional football, and that's what they play. No turnovers, no penalties. Ultimately, they're not going to be real good at catch up against good teams. You know what I mean? A real good defense. And I think I think Cincinnati's got a pretty decent defense. I don't know if they're good enough to hold up against that onslaught, the running game that Tennessee has ultimately. If Tennessee can dominate in the running game and get some big plays out of the passing game, I think they got a great chance of beating them. But the bottom line is I just think that they'll go down and score a bunch of points on Tennessee and just keep it out of reach.
Does Derrick Henry play this game? They've been flirting with this. It seems like now
maybe.
Maybe.
Let's just say he does though. The thing with right now with the Bengals is they're capable of putting 28 points up in any quarter. They can do that.
Right.
And I think that if they go down there and play like they're capable of play, they'll put a bunch of points in and just make Tennessee come from behind to win that game, because that's not what they do. They slow things down and they grind it out and make some plays in the pass game. That's it. But they're not to get in a 2-minute kind of shootout kind of deal, which is going to be in Cincinnati's favor. Tennessee's just not. They're just not built to do that.
The Bengals are a very good team in terms of completion percentage, and that speaks to the quarterback. And Joe Burrow's got the highest completion percentage in the NFL. It's 70%. You talk about a stat all the time that's big, and it's yards per attempt on pass plays, right? And they were at 7.9 before that game, which was number 2, believe it or not, in the NFL, next to San Francisco, which is number 1. But that ability, and why is that so important? And how did that stat come about? What gravitates you to that particular stat with all the other stats?
When I first got in the league, I talked to a stat guy who knew nothing about football, and he just said, of all the because he applied it to the whole league since 1950, one of those things. He said the number that jumps out at you is the yards per pass attempt. And it usually equates points, being able to move the ball, all those things. So I think that 7 to 7.5 used to be really a good number. Very rarely, if ever, did anybody hit 8. But if you're up there close to 8, then you're really tough offensive passing game. It's really difficult to stop you. They're not going to stop you as long as you stay healthy. And that's kind of the point. They're going to get their points in with those kinds of numbers. And that's why I think they beat them. I do. I think they go down and beat Tennessee. I just don't think Tennessee is going to hold up against that passing attack.
Will the quarterback hold up? Tannehill?
No, and that's why I think Cincinnati beats them, because I don't think Tannehill can play from behind and play well. He's the turnovers and it takes him too long to get rid of that ball.
Yeah, they're -5 in the turnover area there. This is the final stats of the season, the regular season. That was 24th. So that's not a good stat. I noticed one thing interesting about this team, and I went and I did some research on all this stuff here. The Titans have never lost more than 2 straight. And I looked around the league. A lot of people lost more than 2 straight, like they had gone a 3-game losing streak, and then they come out of it and then go another one. But it seems like the good teams don't lose more than 2 straight ever, and the really good ones don't even lose 2 straight.
Right, and a lot of that speaks to injuries too, though, Ron.
Yeah,
for a lot of people, when you like the 49ers, when they first got going, they had a bunch of injuries, and I think that's a major factor. I think the teams that win the Super Bowl for the most part are injury-free, or they've got their top players together, and they might have a nick here and there. But I think some of that, and the other thing is the way they play the game. They're never out of it. They never get way behind. They just grind out. They're tough. They're physical, and they grind it out. They stay within range. They keep it so they can, in the fourth quarter, they have an opportunity to win the game.
Well, look at Tennessee's defense. They're a fast defense. They pursue well, and they're very physical, and that speaks to what you're talking about.
Well, they're like San Francisco in the fact that on both sides of the ball they're very physical up front. Yeah. They really are. Yeah. The only thing I would say is I just think that Cincinnati has got the opportunity to hit some big plays in the passing game and put that game out there a little bit for them.
Yep, and that game will be, once again, for everyone, that game is in Tennessee. Let's go to San Francisco and Green Bay. I mentioned already the 49ers with a great front four, played well all year, maybe made the difference in this team, but they're banged up. Nick Bosa had a head injury, neck injury. He left the game early. Got to check on his status. And they had another injury there with Fred Warner. Their
big
linebacker
injuries.
who's
What a
all
great
kind
year
of plays.
Yeah.
And those are huge. Sometimes you can win, but then lose at the same time. And from a defensive standpoint, it feels like San Francisco's doing that. But this will be interesting. So this is a team now that beat the Packers in an NFC Championship game a few years back. So I'm sure the Packers will recount that one. But this is you're going back to Green Bay now. There's some history with this game, right? We know this, the Packers and 49ers, so they'll show all those tapes. But there's going to have to be some added pressure on the 49ers now with the defensive injuries.
I'm just not sure that they're with or without those injuries, if their plan on offense is going to fit, the Packers. And here's why I say that, Ron. Packers are really sound and really good on defense. I don't know that you can rush 30 times against the Packers and win unless Rodgers is out of the game. He's going to get his points. He is going to get his points. The receivers are healthy. The backs are good. I mean, they're going to score points. And I don't know that you can stand in there and slug it out and rush the ball 30 times, and unless you're just trying to keep it in range, so to speak. So and Garoppolo I saw him get hit on that. I knew he hurt his shoulder. So he's got a bad shoulder too, on his throwing shoulder. Yeah. I just don't think they can go up there and get it done. I think the Packers would just put a lump on their head.
And I guess this is still right. I keep looking at this and I don't believe it. Aaron Rodgers, only 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
Wow. How hard is that to do in a season? Like, and you've been through quarterback.
He's so accurate with the ball, and he just doesn't make dumb decisions. He knows what you're in before you are, and I've never seen a quarterback like this. He's playing at such a high level that I don't know if we've ever seen it in the league.
Yeah. Well, Green Bay's got to prove they can get out of this championship game curse now. They've dropped the last 2 championship games they've been in. And last year they lost to a Tampa Bay team that came up there and surprised them.
Yeah.
Like I said, they'll have Jair Alexander back, Bakhtiari. We're not sure about that. And we talked about the turnovers of Tennessee not being solid in the takeaway turnover ratio. But the Green Bay Packers are on the opposite side of that spectrum, plus 16, folks.
Yeah.
Plus 16. That's insane. And that's number 1 in the NFL. Usually when you're that high in the turnover ratio, you're going to the Super Bowl. That team usually goes.
Yeah, they're just playing such great football in all avenues. Special teams, defensively, they're really come along from where they were at the beginning of the year. And
yeah,
of course, where they're healthy, finally healthy with a week off. That's a scary proposition for anybody to go up there and see a team that is a great football team, but has been blemished with injuries, full, healthy, and rested and ready to go. That's tough.
Okay, so Mike, let's take this from the reverse now. Look at it from the inside out. What's the only thing that can screw Green Bay up?
Turnovers.
The first thing.
Turnovers.
Because all this stuff you talk about, you got the quarterback. He's a Hall of Famer. They're healthy. It seems like from top to bottom, they're as good as the Rams are as far as talent and stars and all that stuff. So what is the one thing that you want to avoid if you're a coach?
Turnovers. You cannot turn the ball over. No fumbles. They can hang on to that football. And the thing that's hurt Green Bay in the past a little bit, although it doesn't show in the scores much, but are drop passes. They've had some drop passes.
You're right. Had them in the championship game last year. I remember Devontae Adams dropping one in the end zone for a touchdown.
And those things, you can't account for a drop pass. You just can't, so, but you're kind of nitpicking at that point. I just think that I don't know that San Francisco has the firepower to match them. The Rams don't. Interesting. No, the Rams offensive line
no. Yeah, right.
Is a real Achilles heel for that football team.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's go now let's go to the Rams then. So the Rams are going to head back to Tampa Bay. I talked about this as we signed on. Tampa Bay and the offensive line, they got beat up in that win against Philadelphia. Tristan Wirfs, the right tackle, outstanding right tackle, maybe the best in the game. He's got a leg injury. He's in a walking boot as of right now. the center, Ryan Jensen is, this is the guy with the long red hair, likes to fight everyone.
Yeah.
He had an injury. He came back in the game because he's a tough guy. I expected that, but I don't think he's 100%. Now they're talking about moving Alex Kappa over to the right tackle position because Josh Wells, who came in and subbed for Wirfs, he's got a quad injury. Yeah. So this is not what I want to hear if I'm a Bucs fan getting ready to go up against Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, A'Shawn Robinson, and, oh, by the way, Von Miller on the other side.
No, I do think the Rams go down there and beat them. I really do.
I do too.
I think winning that game was a big shot in the arm from losing to the 49ers here a few weeks ago. And just kind of selling out. The two additions have all of a sudden showed up big, with the receiver in the rush end. And, they're playing on, they're hitting on all cylinders right now. They really are. I think the offensive line for the Rams will struggle somewhat with that front from Tampa, but I think they'll go down there and beat that team. I really do.
I do too, and I think McVay is a good enough coach to figure out how to protect his offensive line from that. The first way to protect it is to get off to a lead, running the damn ball. That'll make all of that easier.
Well, having Cam Akers now changes everything because now all those play actions that you were reluctant to run because you weren't running the ball makes them good.
Yeah, it does change everything. And now it looks like they're starting to get Odell Beckham involved. And Odell lets you know every time he makes a play because he does a dance or something.
Well, they got those three receivers with Jefferson and, of course, the Cup. Those three receivers, you trot them out there, and the tight end's a good player. So, and Cam Akers kind of was the missing piece for that football team.
Yeah. No, they can.
They are hitting. Something. They're like the Green Bay Packers. They're hitting on all cylinders right now.
This one feels like it's headed a collision course for Green Bay and the Rams in Green Bay for the national NFL.
I just wish the Rams defensively would be do a little bit more with their front, to get guys free.
Yeah. Then maybe they might. Maybe they've been saving
more pressures. They pressured last night.
Yeah.
They ran some pressures, which I almost fell out of my chair. But
that'll be the NFC Championship game if it happens. So we'll. Do you think going back to the Tampa Bay thing, what will Brady try to do now? Brady can't run. He's not a runner, so he's going to get the ball out of his hands quick, right?
Yeah. I think that. I really believe that they'll sit on all that stuff, perhaps go into another 5-man front look with him, making it difficult because they're short in the running back position too, aren't they? I'm talking about Tampa. So,
well, Ronald Jones didn't play last week. Right. They're saving him. Fournette should go this week.
Well, Fournette shows up and Jones, it's a little bit different for him. Then they'll have. Yeah. I think that's what they have to do. I think Tampa Bay's got to run the football, grind it out, and protect the quarterback and be judicious with the throws because, you got to keep their offense out the field as well.
Yeah. All right. Buffalo, Kansas City.
Well,
so we're in Kansas City now. Yeah. And this is where they lost the AFC Championship game last year to the Chiefs. And, that was a scene of Diggs standing on the sideline there when everyone else had gone in, watching them present the trophy to the Chiefs. So,
yeah, I think this is. I just think Buffalo goes in and just puts a big thump on them, right on them. I think it's going to be a hard game for the Chiefs to stay in. I really do. I don't think they're any good on defense. Like I said, I think Spagnuolo's done a great job disguising the fact that they're really not very good. And he'll take off a couple times and start running with the football and all that stuff. They're just not gonna. I just think the way they're playing right now, they just hit their stride. I'm talking about Buffalo, and they're so good on defense. They have a good plan for Mahomes. I just think they go in there and win this one pretty big.
So I talked earlier about the defensive categories for the Buffalo Bills. They're number one in total yards given up, passing yards given up, first downs given up, third downs, points. The interception by Micah Hyde, which I thought was the game changer, first quarter. Buffalo had gone down and scored, and now here comes New England.
He comes flying across.
Yeah. That was as good of intercept. That was a Hall of Fame type interception.
You run the quarterback too. I mean, he got such a great break on the quarterback. Of course, the quarterback didn't use his eyes like he's supposed to, but then you do what you got to do. You did the right thing.
Yeah, and you could say, well, maybe the ball if it's put over the shoulder and this and that, but the kid made a great play. And another reason it's a great play is, I've played in that stadium in that weather and that cold and that wind. It is hard to track a ball in the air with that wind in that stadium. And to do that and running and locate. And if you watch carefully, Mike, he caught it over his head. It was a blind catch.
Yeah.
It almost defied physics when you look at it again. Because it's not like he could track it the whole time. Got it. He tracked it. And then at one point it was blind and now he just had to wait and feel it. I thought it was one hell of a play.
I think he caught it by accident. That happens.
I don't want to say that.
Yeah, it's just like that catch last night by the Arizona receiver.
Yeah.
13 went through his arms, hit the chest of the.
That crap. Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, right.
It happens. No, but he went and he saw it. He got it in midair, and he had a few forwards. And he did a great job. Got an exceptional break on the ball. As soon as that quarterback tilted, he was on it. So I just think they're too good defensively. I think they have a great plan for Mahomes. Mahomes is not moving around like he used to. Remember 2 years ago? He didn't know if he was going to take off or not and all the stuff he did. And Hill will hurt them. He'll get his plays. But after that, I just think that Kelsey, they'll make some plays. But I just don't know if they can keep pace with the Bills on offense.
Now, Buffalo's got the quarterback, the offensive line. That's another thing we're talking about. That offensive line is good size, and they're very physical. They're one of those groups. They like to punch you in the mouth, and they don't mind getting in a fight or two.
Just think if they had a Cam Akers with them, somebody like that right now.
Gosh, and that might be where they head.
I just think it's a Bills-Packers Super Bowl more than likely, and we'll see.
Yeah, and Buffalo hit that rough stretch. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
And they couldn't figure out what New England just did to them. Pittsburgh.
Remember
Pittsburgh? Right. Yeah, right.
Pittsburgh.
Right.
Ron, Pittsburgh beat them, right? So
they got them right. But they got the run game with the quarterback. They've got the resiliency. They're a resilient team. They've gone through some ups, some downs, some tough stuff. I think they've got good chemistry.
I think that's a head coach too. I think he does a great job.
Yeah.
In leadership in terms of getting that team where they need to be, their mindset and all that stuff.
Yep. Number one defense, third in the NFL in offense, 28 points per game, folks. They're rolling up some points, and that's big. Hey, keep an eye on this kid, number 19, Isaiah Mckenzie. He's a return guy. Reminds you of a Tyreek Hill. Okay, quick, fast, explosive.
He's got juice now.
Oh,
he can go. He does remind me of Tyreek. He does. He's got some, and Hill's got speed, but he has an acceleration that is really unusual.
Yeah. What I guess it's suddenness. Is that what it is? Suddenness?
Yeah, he gets into top gear, and his top gear is better than everybody else. It's one thing getting into top gear within a couple of steps, but when it's faster than everybody else, that's really unusual.
When it's faster than everyone else's, then that's
and he is. He's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, no, he is. So give me your Super Bowl picks.
Well, I think it's going to be Green Bay and Buffalo. I really do. I think Buffalo ends up winning this one, of course, and then I think probably Cincinnati plays them in the AFC Championship game. But I think they win it. I think they win the AFC and go into the Super Bowl. And I do think that the Packers are going to be really hard to beat up there. I really do.
Yeah. I picked Buffalo. Well, actually, I picked Kansas City and Green Bay. I could see Green Bay early. I just see Kansas City.
Well, you might be right. You might be right because I'm a big as you know, from last year, I'm a big Buffalo fan. I just like the way they play.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, right now they're playing as good as they've ever played, and they're doing it at the right
That's right.
time.
If they had home field, I think it'd be a done deal. It would be like going back to the 90s when they had that thing rolling there and we're going to the 4 straight. It would be over.
But you know, I think the head coach will address that too, because it doesn't make much difference to him now with New England too. I think that doing that to New England is a big deal to prepare them to play for big games like that on the road too.
That's right. Hey, we'll end with this, Mike. Give me your MVP. Well, hold on to your MVP. Let's discuss these two things. The Raiders unloaded Mike Mayock, GM. We figured that might happen. Did that surprise you at all?
No.
Yeah.
No, that was a personal hire from John, and it didn't make any sense at the time.
Yeah, it didn't. It made no sense to me. It
Right.
made no sense to me and a lot of other people. And so, is Mike McCarthy going to survive down there in Dallas?
Well, because he doesn't ruffle anybody's feathers, and that guy in that position, that's the hardest job in the NFL, and he's managing it pretty good. Yeah, he's going to survive because ultimately they know it's not his fault, because he's not allowed to. Whoever is in that position, like we said before, is a substitute teacher in the 8th grade. You just try to keep them from burning the building down.
What did you say? Substitute teacher in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Just survive the day, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was a substitute teacher in the 8th grade when I first got into teaching. And you go in there, they don't listen to a word you say. You lock the door, and hopefully nobody gets hurt in that hour that you got them. They just do what they want to do. And that's kind of because the head coach doesn't have any authority, or they don't put any weight on anything he says down there, because they know that he's not making any decisions.
Mike, where were you a substitute teacher in 8th grade?
At Point Loma Junior High School over here in San Diego. My first year out of school, first 2 years, I was a substitute teacher while I was coaching at Mesa College. And my very first job was at San Diego High School. Yeah. In those days, they were in a modular system. So I had a biology class for 3 hours, and I had a stack of films I was supposed to show them. So I put them on. There's about 10 or 12 kids in the San Diego High School. This is when the old school they tore it down, but was there. We're on the 3rd floor, and all of a sudden the window covering kind of moved a little bit. And I went over there, and there's a kid climbing out of the 3rd floor. He was going to drop. Yeah. So I'm pulling him in, and then I heard somebody say, "Ooh, cool." So I went and turned the lights on, and a kid back there had sulfuric acid, and he was pouring it on the desk back there. So that was my very first day. And then I went to get a cup of coffee at lunch, and they wouldn't give me a cup of coffee because they don't give coffee to the students. So I had to get my license out, and then she still wouldn't believe me that I was 21 years old. I said, no, I'm a substitute. So I finally got a cup of coffee. So it was a tough day for the mixer.
What you say?
Tough day for the mixer. Sulfuric acid on the deal, man. And I had to pull a kid off the 3rd floor window. He was going to hang out there and drop. He wanted to ditch school. He was going to break his legs.
Oh, gosh, I can't believe that, man. You got to be kidding.
And that was the days of the boom box. So I had one of the girls in there had a big boom box, and she had that thing going. You can't watch the movie, and I was trying to get her to turn the boom box off. And
you're trying to get her.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's hazard pay for substitute teachers in those days at San Diego High School. They should have tripled their pay.
All right. Oh my gosh. Well, see, but the shining moment there is, they say all great coaches are great teachers. Okay.
Well, that was a survival mode. I don't know if I taught anybody anything. That was in survival.
Yeah. Oh man, give me your MVPs.
Cooper Kupp. I think just to do what he did, you can't cover him. You have to double him. I can't remember seeing a receiver in the league that's had that kind of impact.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. Jerry Rice, he's in that league. He just is.
Yeah. That's I kind of had him down there. Had some other guys down, but he always kept popping up. They got Aaron Rodgers there. They got Brady there. Brady has put up crazy numbers.
He has. It's those two both those are easy picks. But I think it's just so unusual what he's doing and what he's done and the problem he presents. I just think it would be good to see him get it.
Yeah. All right, Mike, that's it for us, man.
All right, Ron.
Don't forget now, hey, the third round of the AMA Supercross is coming to your hometown down there in San Diego.
Are those motorcycles or are those bicycles? Are those motocross things?
That's right. Those are motor. Nah, these are bikes.
Bicycles?
No, these are motorcycles.
Oh,
yeah,
motorcycles.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. You hear that noise?
Yeah,
man. It's like Formula One. Hey, this is the sport I told you I wanted to do. If I didn't play professional football, I was going to race motocross. So just
Ron, how old are you?
Do I have to divulge that?
No, but I'm just
is that in my contract?
I'm making a point to you. How old are you?
Let's just say I'm 59 and hanging.
Well, let's just say that it's nice to wear the shirt, but don't get on the bike.
Mike, I know that much. Believe me.
Good.
I'm not getting on the bikes anymore.
Good.
As hard as it is. Now I may putt around the backyard a little bit, but that's just between us. I can't help it, Mike. I love it so much. They're going to be at Petco Park. So if you get bored, you and Julie want to go down Saturday night. Race starts at like 7:30. You want to go? I
love hamburgers too, but I don't eat 30 of them.
All right, Mike.
Okay,
that's
Ronnie.
it, man. We're
Talk
done.
to you later.
I'll see you next week. Bye.